Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. On behalf of the Valkyries, we want to thank you for joining us for what will be a historic day in the franchise's history. I'm Laura Britt. I'm a host and reporter at NBC Sports Bay Area. I've had the chance to see many of you and work with you across many sporting events in Northern California. So thanks for being here. It was just over a year ago that the WNBA awarded Golden State with the 13th WNBA expansion franchise, and there's been a lot of momentum growth since then. You probably recently saw the news about the 18,000 season ticket deposits. That's a record-breaking metric. No other U.S. women's professional sports team has seen numbers like that. So I think the data and the growth speaks for itself that Northern California is ready for a WNBA franchise. So, Golden State, as you know, does not have any players yet. The Valkyries don't have any players yet or a head coach yet, but that is why we are all here. And so for more on that, I'd like to introduce Valkyries General Manager, Ohima Nianen. Thanks, Ohima.
Good morning. Thank you so much. It's another great day in the history of the Valkyries. Mr. Joe and the ownership group gave me a blank canvas to create a championship caliber roster and staff. Since then, I've hired Vanya Chernovets as my VP of Ops, who most recently was the GM of the London Lions and won the 2024 Euro Cup. And today, I'm proud to announce that we're adding yet another component to this canvas. Our first head coach in Valkyries history, Natalie Nakase.
Thank you, Ohima, number one, and for believing in me, and thank you for this opportunity. Before I get started, though, I do want to get you guys in on a little secret. So it was 2015, and it was my third year in the NBA working for the Clippers. And I was watching the finals, and I'm looking up at the screen, and Golden State Warriors win a championship under new leadership, new ownership, Joe Lacob. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, look how happy they are. You know, and they're not just winning, but I go, look at the joy that they're having. And I just remember telling myself, like, I want to work for Golden State. Like, I want to be a part of that. And fast forward 9 years later, I'm sitting here, you know, in Golden State. And I'm just, you know, living proof that when you work really, really hard and you stay focused on your goal, that big dreams do come true. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Ohima. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Vanya. Everyone who was involved in the hiring process. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for entrusting me in leading the Golden State Valkyries. I really appreciate it. And I understand the expectations here. You made it really clear. So my first conversation with Joe, right? Sitting there, you know, having some lunch, and he's just so passionate, and he has full of energy. And basically the first 10, 15 minutes, he's just like telling me, like, I'm about, you know, achieving goals. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's just like, so what I do is, he's like, I set my goal really, really high. And then he's like, I create a plan. And then he's like, I just work obsessively towards that plan over and over again until I get that goal. And I'm like, yeah. And so towards the end of our conversation, he was like, so he goes, in about 5 years, he's like, we're going to have to win a championship. And I was like, hell yeah, we're going to win a championship. Like, I wanted to, just because of his passion, you know, and his energy, and like also his belief. And so then, you know, he went on and said, look, I'm going to provide the Valkyries with the best practice facility in Oakland. It's going to have 17 baskets, 2 courts going this way, 1 court going that way, with the weight room, recovery room. Like, it's going to be your own space. And I was like, great. And then he said, in the Chase Center, we're going to have your own locker room. It's going to be your own. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're playing in the Chase Center? Like, oh, my gosh. And so I remember just sitting there thinking, like, he's setting me up for success, right? Like, I can't fail in this situation because he's just providing me with so many great resources. And I just remember leaving our conversation, and I never told you this, but I was like, I want to work for Joe. Like, that's who I want to work for. And not only that, I want to bring home that first championship for him. So I just want to thank you, Joe, because like that conversation, as much as maybe you just thought it was just a lunch or whatever, that impacted me in so many positive ways. So I just want to thank you. And I want to thank the Las Vegas Aces. Head coach, close friend of mine, Becky Hammond, a mentor, and our president, Nikki Fargas, and obviously Mark Davis, one of the best sports owners I've worked for. And what Las Vegas taught me was they taught me how to win. We won back-to-back championships in our first 2 years, and that's special, And the reason why we won was because Becky Hammond just has a really big heart, and she created such a loving and caring environment from the jump. And so we just had that initial buy-in from the start. And so I will forever be grateful for them. And, once you win a championship, as you guys know, like, you're family for life. And so I'm just grateful that I'll always have them, in my corner. And lastly, I want to thank my family. My sister, Nicola, and my mom, they just couldn't be here today. But my sister, Nori, my nephew, Kason, and my best friend, Melissa, are sitting right here. And I just want to thank you guys for always picking up my phone calls. And for those that just don't know kind of like my background, my dad, who was my best friend, like, he passed away a couple years ago. And so he was always my first phone call, right? Whether it was like life or basketball, like, that was my first phone call. And so without that, I don't have that anymore. Thank you guys just for always picking up my calls, right? Because I wouldn't be here today. And just your love and support, like, I would not be here today. So I appreciate you guys. And lastly, just to the organization, I'm going to pour all my energy and my heart and my soul into this organization. And I just can't wait to build a championships team, because that's what the fan base here deserves. So thank you. Oh, thanks. I was like, was that good?
You can see why I hired her. I'd love to just take a moment to talk about the hiring process, and then also why Natalie. So the hiring process started right after I stepped off this podium about 5 months ago. The hiring committee was amazing. I'm really grateful and thankful for the time that they spent helping me put this together. The search included coaches from the international, collegiate, and professional landscapes, and our approach was robust and expansive. It was critical to ensure that we took our time and due diligence in making sure we made the right hire for the franchise, for our athletes, and for our fans. I was blown away by all of the inquiries that we got. Every social media platform I got, hey, I'm going to be your next head coach. And I was just really grateful that people wanted to come and be a part of our franchise. We were looking for a leader that understood the opportunity that this expansion team has to impact the league. I was looking for a person, Mr. Joe and I were looking for a person that leads with empathy, humility, and inclusivity, someone who embraces the opportunity to build with myself and Mr. Joe, someone who had competitive grit, grind, and then also somebody who was purpose-driven. So why Natalie? She is extremely driven. Started her career as a walk-on and turned starter at UCLA. That approach started her in her path to greatness. She's a unifier. Through the interview process, she had a focus on surrounding herself with a diverse coaching staff that would be able to develop and maintain trust for all of our future athletes. She's a poised hard worker, as she's already described. She started coaching in 2008 in Germany and then Japan before working with the Clippers for a decade, and most recently, as she has thanked, the Las Vegas Aces. The last thing that I want to say is that she's inquisitive. She loves to ask questions about how and why things are happening, which I think is an important trait for building something from scratch. I'd love to hand it off to you, Laura, and also just to highlight that I'm really proud, and this organization is very proud to announce from my research, and I'm still researching to make sure I have this right, the first Asian American female head coach in WNBA history.
Thank you, Ohima. Thanks, Natalie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we've got a quick Q&A that I'll do up here, and then we'll open it up to questions. I know many people are joining online as well, so you'll be able to ask questions online, so just hold those for a moment. But let's start with that conversation, Natalie, that you had with Joe Lacob. The idea and the goal is to win a championship within the first 5 years of this franchise. What do you like about that challenge? And I'll pose this to both of you, but we'll start with you, Natalie.
I mean, I just like the challenge that he wants to be number one. I mean, that's what sports is about, right? That's the beauty of sports, is that you want to be number one. You want to be a champion. Like, no one kind of goes back and be like, well, in 5 years, I want to be number two. Like, nobody remembers the second place. Everyone remembers the champion. So that's what drives me is, again, like my dad taught me when I was young, like, you always got to be the best. And so I almost feel like he has trained me in a way, or he's raised me, to be where I am today. And so, can't wait to get to work. Obviously, this is day one, but just ready to get to work and start achieving that goal.
Ohima, that is a lofty goal, especially with no players yet. What excites you about the challenge?
It excites me because I get to work with amazing elite humans that have come from all walks of life, all experiences. We're going to do it right, and we're going to do it. And we have no other excuse but to do it, and we've been given the resources to do it. So now it has to happen.
There's obviously a lot of success within this organization with what the Warriors have done on the court. Are there any pressures with now transferring that over to the WNBA? How does that feel for you?
No, I don't think there's any pressure. I think actually pressure is just a mindset. It's just in your mind. Again, like I see it as a challenge, like you just said. And again, you always want to be number one. And I think what's kind of neat is, yes, we don't have any players right now, but when we do get our players, I'm a big believer that confidence is key with anything, and that every day, and since the goal is a championship, that we're going to walk into practice and we're going to work hard every single day. And every single day, their confidence is just going to grow and grow and grow. And to me, that's one of the coolest things as being a coach, whether it's a head coach, now being a head coach. But I love seeing that confidence go from like here and then in a month go from there. And so, I'm just excited just because I'm a pusher and I just enjoy doing that. And again, that's just going to be, I think, key to, win a championship down the line.
As far as the record viewership we're seeing in the WNBA, the metrics business-wise are all around. I'm sure many of you have seen the headlines across newspapers and, well, I guess it's not newspapers anymore, digital papers, whatever you want to call it, the Twitter, the X, whatever you want to call it. What excites you most about where the WNBA is headed, Ohima?
The growth is just limitless. What we've seen from the past 5 years, from when I've been in the league to where we are today, and as you mentioned, where we are today means that we can kind of grow to anywhere, and we're going to continue to grow. I'm just super excited about it.
What's unique about this time in WNBA history right now, Natalie?
I think what you're seeing, like what Joe's doing is he's creating our own practice facility. I had that with the Las Vegas Aces, and no matter what anyone's going to say, like that is a huge advantage to have your own space where you can go 24/7 or where you can go to recover. Like that is such an advantage. And so eventually what people are not really talking about is the off season. Most players go overseas, but if we ever can get to a point to where we can keep our players in-house, now in the off season, instead of 6 months going somewhere else and learning a new defense and a new offense, like let's keep them in-house. We have our own practice facility, so let's keep them in-house so they can continue to learn our philosophy. I mean, that's going to be big for me because we're an expansion team. So the sooner we can get the players in, the better. But I think when you do that, now our product is going to be better because the players are not learning two completely different, philosophies. And so that's where I think the league is headed, is if everyone gets on board with the practice facility, like, you're going to see this product grow.
Ohima, the expansion draft has now been announced. Obviously, we've mentioned multiple times, no players yet. What's the process like for you, and what are your initial priorities in building the Valkyries?
Yeah, the process started 5 months ago, right? Being able to scout, Vanya and I have put together a really robust plan, and now we get to show our plan to our head coach and say, what are your thoughts? I'm very excited to talk to her about her philosophy, what she's looking for in each of the different positions. And then from there, we have a little bit more time until December 6th, and we're just going to continue to put our processes in place.
What kind of team do you want to build?
Competitive. That's just number one. Like, we got to be able to compete. I mean, you have to love winning and you have to hate losing. Like, if losing doesn't hurt you or you don't feel it, like, you're not going to do well in the Valkyrie system. And then secondly, like, you got to be selfless. I want to see that ball moving. I think, again, Golden State has carried a standard of winning, but just with their pace and the ball movement, because I just think ball movement is unguardable. And lastly is, like I've been saying a million times, like, you got to work. You really have to work, because if you're trying to now beat established teams, like New York, Liberty, Minnesota, like, we have to work just to be able to, get to that level in a couple years.
Sounds like you'll have the facilities to be able to put in a lot of that work. All right, thank you both. Let's open it up to questions. If you could just raise your hand. We've got a microphone floating around right here. So if you've got a question, just raise your hand and we'll get the mic over to you. Right here.
Hi, welcome. Ann Killian with the San Francisco Chronicle. Could you talk about what you can take from the Aces and their success and specifically apply it here? I mean, obviously, that was basically an all-star squad, and had a head start, was not an expansion team. But what lessons do you take from what you did with Becky?
Ooh. How much time do you have? No.
We've got about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. Becky Hammond, the X's and O's, I mean, it's high level, so I don't even need to go there with that. But I think I just touched on it. Like, Becky Hammond has the biggest heart that I've ever been around as a coach. And for me at the time, like, she took me in the year my dad passed, right? And so I remember her just having one conversation with her on the phone, and we talked X's and O's, and we didn't even know each other prior to me, joining the Las Vegas Aces. Like, we're acquaintances, like, we're opponents, and we're like, yeah, what up? But, like, nothing, like, super close. But I remember her asking me the question of, how are you doing as a person? And I just completely broke down because, no one has ever asked me that. And I just remember, like, I really want to work for someone where I'm going to feel comfortable and I'm going to feel loved and cared in that environment. And so that's what she did from day one on training camp. She opened her heart. She made everyone feel comfortable and be their authentic self. And that's why we got that buy-in, no matter, we had all-stars or this and that. But the buy-in was so quick that's why I think a huge reason why we won right away in our first year, because we didn't know each other. We didn't know the players. And so when you have that, like, you have to come together quickly. And so that's what I'll take is, like, I'm just going to coach with my heart. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be caring. And just going to be there for the players. Yeah.
Hi, Marissa and Jemmy, San Francisco Chronicle. Ohima, like, you mentioned how, like, you and Vanya have kind of come up with this plan and are going to present it to Natalie, and it's been this work in process. I'm just kind of curious, like, what is the identity that you've been trying to establish in bringing in Natalie, bringing in Vanya before you even have players ready to go and you're going to enter the player acquisition process of all this? Like, what is the identity you wanted to be able to present when you start that process?
Yeah, I think the majority of the identity is to embrace the unknown, right? Like, we are the first expansion team since 2008. There's a lot that is ahead of us. I think embracing the understanding that adversity is an opportunity to learn. And if we lead with our experiences and an open heart, there's nothing that we can't achieve.
Hi, Natalie. Danny Emmerman with the Bay Area News Group here.
Hi.
In terms of keeping players local in the offseason, how close do you think the league is and this team is to getting to that reality, and what factors might be preventing it? Like, is it just contingent on paying players enough that they don't need to go overseas?
I mean, I think that's an individual player, question just because the salaries range so differently and actually what the player needs and their lifestyle at that time. We have players from all different types, walks of life. So I can't really speak for the individual player, but I think we're close. A lot of our players stayed back last year. They now have that new league in Miami, so I think that's also going to help because the pay, I think, is I mean, 6 of the aces are playing, so I'm sure there's enough money for them to stay. So I think leagues like that really help. And again, like practice facilities, that's huge, so I think we're very close. Yeah.
RC Davis, Warriors Radio. Talk about how much it means to you to be the first Asian American coach in the league.
It means a lot. I'm gonna start crying. I mentioned this before when I met, the Warriors staff is like, I just fell in love with the sport when I was 6. My dad raised me. He has so much passion for basketball. And so all I knew was playing basketball every single day because he played. And then he made our three girls. Yeah, he had 3 daughters. He made us play every single day. So, like, that's all we knew. And because he was passionate about the sport, like, I became passionate about the sport, right? And so as I grew up and was like, oh, I'm, like, pretty good at this. Like, I had some success. I ended up playing at UCLA. And, like, at the time, like, you don't really think and look around, like, what am I doing? Especially when, like, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. But as I got older and I ended up coaching for a men's professional team in Japan, and I guess I was the first woman to ever do that. And I remember after games, there would be a ton of women just like surrounding me after games and just saying thank you and arigato, and I'm like, okay, like cool, but we lost too. Like I'm just like, why are you saying that after we lost? And just a little history with Japanese American culture, like men, are considered, up here where women are a little bit more submissive. So for them, it was just really powerful to see a woman, in that position yelling at refs, trying to get a technical. But I just remember this one woman, she'd come every single time. She was so cute. She would bring me treats and things, and she just said something in Japanese, and I asked my translator, like, what'd she just say? And she said, look, she's like, you're my hero. And I was like, and she was older than me. I'm like, how can I be someone's hero? And it just completely took me away. And now I get it. I do understand it's my responsibility, not only to, be the first, but to set a good example, and push as hard as I can. So that's why I'm kind of obsessed with winning and winning a lot of championships, because that's why I want to set the standard with it.
We've got one more in here, and then we'll take some questions online. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Natalie. Greg Silver, KNBR. So expansion franchises typically require a little bit of patience, and it's a process building from the ground up. But you also, it's no secret, that you got this ultra competitiveness. How do you plan to balance that as a head coach when you're kind of getting things going, don't even know who your roster is yet, and just kind of take this in stride?
How are we gonna slow down? I mean, that'll never slow down, and I think that's why you see like us in leadership positions, like we have a lot of enthusiasm, we're motivated. So number one, that won't slow down, but I think that's only gonna draw attention to the right players, right? Like at the same time, like, yeah, we're gonna choose 12 players, but the right players are gonna wanna come to a winning culture. You know what I mean? Like winners attract winners. And so whoever we end up choosing, like they're, by me telling like what type of players I want, like they're gonna be attracted to this organization. So, I didn't really answer your question other than like we're gonna compete, and then every year we're gonna get better and better. But, like Joe said, the goal is a championship, so we got to bring a championship home. Yep.
All right, let's take some questions from everyone watching online. Do we have, will they be able to speak? Yeah. Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Yes, fantastic. All right, awesome. My name is Megan Hall. I'm with USA Today's For the Win. This question is for Natalie. Natalie, you mentioned dream come true. So I wanted to ask you, what would little Natalie think about this moment?
Oh, that she's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I just, again, played basketball every day just because I actually thought that was what I was supposed to do when I was young. Like I said, we really didn't have a choice, but like, I just fell in love with it. So, yeah, I think crazy would be the word. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. We've got another one coming in.
Hi there, Natalie. Congratulations. This question is for you. Just was curious, you mentioned the practice facility as a big factor, but or what other ways have you seen Golden State and the Valkyries separate themselves from other teams in the league or put themselves on par with, the top echelon of franchises, even as a new one?
That's a good question. So I mentioned this earlier. So just quick story. When I worked in the NBA, I worked for the Los Angeles Clippers. And again, 2015, Golden State wins the championship. 2017, Golden State wins the championship. 2018, so I'm sitting here in LA and I'm like, why are they always winning? Like there's obviously some type of secret that they have. And yeah, they have players and they like to have fun. And that was our goal too, is to have players that like to have fun and just, team chemistry. And after they won the third one, I was like, okay, I'm just going to ask somebody.
Went a little bit because it took us back to those idle days. What's about what's been going on?
Hold on, lady. So, so I just remember, like, oh, I'm just going to ask somebody. Like, I'm just going to go to the source. I'm going to ask somebody at Golden State, one of the coaches. And at the time, Willie Green was one of your coaches. And Willie Green played for us my first year when I did video. And so I'm like, when I ran into him in summer, like, I'm like, why do you guys win all the time? And he's like, is that a serious question? I'm like, yeah, it's a serious question. And he's like, I'm just going to keep it simple. And he's like, and you're going to be shocked. And I'm like, well, what is it? And he's like, Joe only hires great people. And I'm like, no, that's can't be it. He's like, no. He's like, Joe only hires great people. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, as simple as that sounds, I'm like, oh, I get it, right? And then fast forward, I win 2 championships with the Las Vegas Aces, and guess what? Our staff is full of great, great people. And so that matters. The people matter, because when you're surrounded by great people, like, she's not going to let me fail, right? And if I do have a bad day or I make a mistake, which I'm going to make some mistakes, okay? But she's going to be there to help me, Like, she's going to hold me accountable or lift me up when I have a bad day. And that's the importance, and that's, really, like, why I wanted to work for Golden State.
Willie giving away the secrets.
Hey, man, we go back.
Okay, we've got one more question. 2 more questions online. Let's hear our next question, please.
Hi, Coach. First off, congratulations. This is Kevin Lewis of the 9450 and Local W. I do have a question in regards to your coaching tree. So how do you plan to develop that coaching tree under your leadership, and what qualities do you look into for your staff and help them grow into future head coaches like yourself?
That's a good question. Well, since today is like day 1 for me, I haven't really dug a deep coaching list right now. But, I do have a couple people in mind, but I want to take my time because obviously, to me, the same way Becky Hammond hired her staff, I'm going to take some time. And like I kind of been saying, hiring genuine people to me is going to be the key. Everyone on my staff is going to have a genuine heart. Again, because when our players are struggling, sometimes too, it's not about hey, I can fix it, right? Sometimes as a genuine leader, and this is what I learned with one of my mentors in LA, is sometimes, say you have a bad game, you just have to, sit in the mud with them sometimes. Sometimes I'll just, if you have a bad game, then I'll just sit there, and forever, whatever she wants to say to me, whatever thing she wants to vent, she might not even want to talk about basketball. That might not even be the problem, right? It could be something outside. And I'm just going to sit here, and listen. And that's the key, I think, with hiring a staff, is that you got to have a genuine heart to lead.
Thank you for your question. We've got one more. Maybe. On the way.
I hear it. This is Ben Pickman from The Athletic. Hey, Natalie. Two quick questions, if I may. One, I know around the league you're known for working players out pregame. You guys have such intense workouts pregame. Will you miss working out players pregame, or are there still plans to do that? And the second one is just what was your reaction? What was Asia and KP's and Jackie's reaction, and some of the aces you became really close with when you told them the news of your.
Well, for pregame, I am getting older, so this body is not moving like it used to back in college. So I probably won't miss the pregame, but I will be on the court with our players. Like, I'm all about sweat equity, and so in our off season or even in practice, like if they ain't doing their defensive slides or if they ain't rebounding, like I'll be in the mix with them. So yeah, but I won't miss pregame. The second one is, oh God, I forgot to mention the players. So last night, I FaceTimed all the players, and instead of going through all of them, let me just hit a couple of them. Asia, she cried, and she made me cry, and we just talked about our relationship and how much it meant to each other to be in each other's lives. But more importantly, what I told Asia was to continue to shine, continue to be authentic, and that for me, she's a role model because she is so unapologetic to being her true self. And so when people sometimes see us coaches as, okay, you guys are leading and you guys teach the players, no. It was actually a little bit reversed when I was with the Las Vegas Aces. And Asia just, like, speech after speech, and obviously she got into the lights, obviously, and the cameras a little bit more, but just the way she held herself through it was something that I'm going to take as I move forward as a leader and just be unapologetically herself. And so I'm forever grateful to have coached Asia. Now, Sydney Colson, she's, for all of you guys that know Sydney Colson, just a great human being because she's going to shoot it straight. So I thanked her. I let her know how much she impacted me as a person, and how she pushed me. But at the end, she was like, well, all great things have to come to an end, right, Nat? And I'm just like, okay, where everyone else was like crying and just saying I love yous. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to miss every single player that, I've coached with the Aces, and forever they will be my family. Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for all the questions and for everyone joining here today. Oh, yeah, one more.
Natalie, you mentioned the Warriors a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, I know you're a separate entity, but have you met Steve Kerr? Will you be picking his brain? Yeah. And how much does that energy of what has gone on in this building, the legacy that has been created with that franchise, do you think will influence what you're able to do?
Oh, yeah, I've met Steve. I've met him. I've known him before, obviously through the NBA, and then I just ran into him in the hallway. And I would be a fool if I don't pick his brain. I mean, like I said, I wanted to work here. So anytime, I'm sure, I don't want to interrupt his season, but anytime, like, I would love to pick his brain and also maybe just sit in on practice and kind of see, like, how different coaches teach. Because it's not just about what you know. It's about how you get your players to buy in and what that communication looks like. And so I'm just really excited. And again, like with the legacy of, the winning and the championships, like, that's where I want to be. Like, this is a place where I've always strived to be because I've always wanted to be the best.
Thank you for that question, and thanks everybody for being here on behalf of the Valkyries for an important day in the franchise's history. Just a little housekeeping, we're gonna have a photo op for anybody that needs pictures or video. So we're gonna do that, and there are no post-presser one-on-ones, so after that photo op, that'll conclude our press conference today. Natalie, congratulations. Ohema, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here. Okay. Almost cried. Huh? I was just saying here. Oh.
We're gonna move stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, crying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
You want to sit down?